Oke, mohon izin untuk slide 1 untuk menyalakan kameranya masing-masing. Mohon izin untuk menyalakan kamera di slide 1 untuk melakukan sesi foto bersama. Untuk pelari, Samuel, Jessica. Oke, baik, kita mulai ya di slide pertama. 3, 2, 1. Oke, sekali lagi. 3, 2, 1. Next, slide berikutnya. 3, 2, 1. Sekali lagi. 3, 2, 1. Oke, terima kasih semuanya.
Okay, we thank the IT Humas team for helping with documentation. We have 7 minutes until I pass for motion launch to for adjudicator Ibu Astri. Oh, sorry. We're gonna release the draw at 12:40. My mistake, sorry. We're gonna release the draw at 12:40 until 12:50. And at 12:50, the motion launch will be announced by court adjudicator. So yeah, for the time being, please remain here. And if you want to chat in the main room or converse with anyone here, you may. PM waktu Indonesia Barat. The the draw has been released. So let me share you the screen. 1 second. So draw for semifinals, here it is. In room HE, we have FHLTLFTI as opening government. We have FH3 as opening opposition. We have FKG1 as closing government. And lastly, we have FK2 as closing opposition. In room HH, we have opening government FTSP1. We have opening opposition FSRD1. We have closing government FAB FTSP. And we have closing opposition FALTL1. So the matchup is pretty clear. Please use this following format. Just the rooms. Rooms, role, team name. And please wait for a few minutes. We will assign you manually to your rooms. Okay, so I'll pass on to CA, for the time being, to Bas.
Fifth, remind everyone to change their name and please check.
Okay. Everyone, please make sure that you have renamed yourself. You don't need to include round anymore. You just have to use
the
Rain
format. Still hasn't changed.
Okay, Rain, please change your name with the format, rooms, role, team name, and name.
Judges.
Boleh, can you show the draw again?
Open tab cat. Oh my God.
Baru kelar makan, Kak. Bentar.
Hey.
Hati.
Oh yeah, please also let your friends, your lecturers, your vice dean, and your dean, let them know of the live streams. We're gonna use the live streams for the semifinal. There will be 2 different live streams for 2 different rooms. If you have received the information, so please forward it so make sure that we can amass a number of audiences. So I think that is all. Thank you.
Okay. I know the music was not as apparent as the previous round, but the music was actually the clue of our next heading. Hold on a second. There you go. Okay, so just to check now, is it the correct possibility? Are you guys seeing a blank white PPT with all those NUDC Trisakti poster?
Yes, ma'am.
Okie doke. So
Yes.
okay, so before we start with the PPT, I would like to first explain that there are several rooms where the educator are in odd number and some in even number. Reason being is because, we only have 5 adjudicators, but worry not. In the process of adjudication in BP, when there is paneling, we have what is called as deliberation. What does it mean? Deliberation is the discussion between all the panel of adjudicators. So it doesn't matter odd or even because we are not voting. So they will going to discuss and create a unanimous decision on who gets the rank. But yes, I'm fully aware that there is a possibility that the discussion does not come to a consensus. In an even number room, when there is a voting, the chair will going to have 2 votes. So that's a little bit of an explanation. On to the reason why the assignation of adjudicators are only 2 in one room and in another are 3 is simply because that the other room, considering the ranking and also the score, are pretty tight together. So it's a tighter room. It requires, an odd number of adjudicator. Just to clarify, specifically because most people here are not that familiar with debates. Now, moving on to the motion. For the semifinal, under the heading of law, the motion reads, so this is now 12:46, so the debate will start at 1:02. The debate will start at 1:02. The motion reads, this House prefers trials where victims and defendants are anonymous. Is there any question about the motion? Going once? Going twice?
I have a question.
Okay.
So, usually like in trials where there's like cross hearing and stuff, so will the defendants and victims not be present in the trial? Or they'll be in separate rooms or like?
It is up to the opening government on the mechanization, but the main principle is that, yes, we are not disclosing the identity of the victims and also the defendants. What does identity means? Again, that depends on the opening government on how they mechanize and explain what does identity entails. Does that answer your question?
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other question? Going once?
I have a question.
Okie doke.
Okay, so the motion states that this House prefers trials where victims and defendants are anonymous. Does this mean that the government side will argue that this should be the system that will that is used in a certain government, or is it just like, okay, we as the government side prefers that this kind of trial happen, but if other kinds exist, that's okay too, but we just prefer this type? Like, where do we draw the line?
Okay, I don't know how much further that I can analyze, that I can answer, but either of scenarios can be acceptable, if you get what I mean. Government can take the stance in saying that we should always do this, but OG, opening government, I mean, the government team can also, discuss that they would choose this. But so both are equally acceptable. It depends on the strategy. It depends on the how government team would like to enter the debate. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other question? Going once? Going twice? Going 3 times? I see no other question. Good luck for the semifinal round, semifinalists.
Recording in progress.
much. So scheduling time has elapsed. Before I start the round, first I would like to do the roll call. OG, are you here? Opening government, are you guys here and complete?
Yes, we are here and complete.
Opening opposition, are you guys here and complete?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, OGO. CG, are you guys here and complete?
Yes, we are.
CO, are you guys here and complete?
Here, complete.
Okay, doke. So I think you guys have been through 4 rounds. You know pretty much the deal. I'm going to do the roll call for my panels. Is Randy here?
Yes, I'm here.
Is Sam here? Samuel
Yes,
Lawrence?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, doke. I mean, I will going to time, but we're not going to write down the timestamp, but open, although not obligatory for my panels to write down on the timestamp. So without any further ado, I call upon the Prime Minister. Time is yours.
Okay. I'll set my timer first. I start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So in the opening government, we prefer trials where victims and defendants are anonymous, because in the status quo right now, the identity of victims and the defendants is being exposed, and we think that it will going to be more harmful for the victims, defendant, and the society. What does the prefer trials are anonymous means that we want that the victims and the defendants, when in the trials, the society and the public of the media will secretly hiding their identity and using the initial name for the case, because this is a sensitive case that want to reach a deal. Moving on to my arguments. First, we want to protect the defendants' families from the bullying of the society. We know that the defendants makes a crime, for example, and we don't want that the parties that not being involved but has the relative with the defendants will get the impact too, because we know that they're not making any mistakes. By protecting the defendant's identity, the citizen will not know who is their family, and in the worst cases, if the defendants are triggered by the society to make an action, we can still protect the defendant's family. For example, when you have the older sister that labeled as a thief, then he has the younger one. The younger one has more possibilities to get bullied in their school, because everyone knows that their families is evil, and the society will get distant from the younger sister. So it will hurt the family's member, and it's just ashamed the parents if they go everywhere knowing that their child is not a good person, and it can be the topics of the parents' family and parents' friends. So when we keep the defendant's identity, it means that we keep the family safe and the relatives safe, because the number of the family member is more than the defendants that in the trials. We only want to spread the news and point out about the crime case, not the people. And we think that the society can learn from the case without knowing the victims and the defendant's identity, because the one thing that we will focus is the tragedy, the storyline, and how can the victims get a crime by the defendants. And secondly, we want to protect victims from the privacy breach. We want that the privacy of the victims is being kept by the police, because we know that nowadays there are so many victims that being oppressed by the society, because the society misunderstand and blame the victims because maybe they're not aware for the crime, and it will affect the psychology of the victims because they are the one that hurts, but also they are the one that blamed by the society. And it is possible for the society to search the victims and makes an analysis about the case, or even stalk their the victims' Instagram or social media. And then mostly the society will post it to the media and tag the victim's account, so it will go viral and there are no more privacy if we are not protecting their identity. Why it is harmful for the victims? Because there also will be the false news, like for example someone from the name of the private school and live in the blah 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 has being harassed by someone, and it means that the more the identity that is breached, it will harm the victims. That's all for me. Thank you.
I thank the Prime Minister. Now to open the opposition team, I call upon the leader of opposition.
Okay, let me prep my speech and my timer. Just a few seconds. Okay. Before I move on to the speech, I would like to inform everyone that if there is any POI, you can unmute your mic and say it. So because I can't because I don't really check on the chat columns. Anyways, now I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Satria Bagaskara, representing FSRD, as the Faculty of Design and Arts, and I will be here debating as the opening opposition side of the House as the leader of the opposition. Now, as you can see, I am here representing a name, representing FSRD, representing my name, Satria Bagaskara, and also representing the leader of the opposition. We have an identity. Now, the few things that I have that is very problematic that I see from the opening government side of the House is that, first of all, I would like to note that it is there is a burden of proof for the government side. They need to prove to us the urgency for this proposal. What's so wrong in this status quo that it needs to change immediately? We need to change it. We need to change the trial system within our justice system right now, so that we can negate this damage that has been done, whatever the damage may be. There was no explanation on that. Yeah, so we haven't seen any urgency in this proposal whatsoever. Okay, and then the second thing I would like to point out is that why is it that anonymity holds a higher priority than the justice system itself? Now, why is it that we need to prioritize the anonymity of the actors in a certain case of law rather than actually doing a better job at actually dissecting and processing these case of laws themselves? Why is it that these anonymity holds a higher priority than our justice system in itself? Okay, so what is the problem in this status quo? We believe that from their side, maybe it's about the good name of the actors in this case, for example, the victims, and they might fall into a victim of bullying, which means that okay, they don't need any more pain that they're already going through. Okay, if that's the problem, then sure. But I would like to remind you that even if we don't promote anonymity for trials, anonymity still happens under our side of the House. It just doesn't happen in the trials. For example, if you see a story of crime or case of law in the TV, do you see the names of the victims? Do you see the names of the aggressor? You don't. You see the initials. That's where anonymity is served. That's where identity is protected. The news does that job for the trials. As for the trials, you don't have anonymity because of certain few things. Now, first, maybe, for instance, it's for clarity in judging. For example, who the actors are in a certain case of law, or maybe the connection between actors of this case. And also, I would like to point out that within our current justice system, in the status quo, there are two kinds of there are two kinds of trials in our justice system. One trial open for public, and one trial that is closed for public. For example, trials including underage children, those are not open for publics. Those are closed for publics. Usually, those who attend those kinds of trials are maybe the family, and the people who are directly affected by that case. So yes, anonymity is served there, but just not as the proposal suggests. Yes, it is still protecting the identity, but not in the way that the government proposes. Now, also, there's a few problems that I have with the proposal itself. They say that, okay, within our mechanism, this identity will be done by, okay, let's use initials for the name. Okay, that works, but it's not needed, as I've elaborated. It happens it happens when the story is published, because that's the problem that they are trying to tackle here. They're trying to tackle the problem that is, okay, we want the story to be published, not the actors, not the names, not the people. We want the story and the tragedy to be published, as I quote the first speaker. Yes, okay, they want to use initials, but we're talking about we're talking about the trials here, the trials. So how far does this anonymity goes? Who is kept from the names of the actors in this case? Like, is the judge supposed to not know the actors of this case? That was never explained. Okay, so maybe not the judge, or maybe the audience of that case is, or maybe for the audience, the actors are kept anonymous for the audience, but the judge knows. So in that case, is it really anonymous? We don't know. So there's clearly so many holes in the proposals that they are proposing here, and we believe that even in the status quo, it's already more than enough. It's we have a justice system that is quite suffice in order to serve the anonymity of the actors that if they may need. Okay. So yes, back to my point. Where is the urgency here? Where is the urgency? If anonymity is what the government side is trying to achieve, then that can also happen under our side of the house, ladies and gentlemen, as I've elaborated. Yeah. So as far as so far, we believe, as the opposing side of the house, we believe that this motion has fallen. And thank you very much for your time.
I thank the leader of opposition. Now to close the opening government team, I call up opening government case. I call upon the DPM.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. I don't really get what the opening opposition's trying to say. They only say that the status quo is enough, but I think they haven't explained a lot about it, and the OO is not proving the benefit of not changing the status quo. Okay, well, my prime minister has explained what the impact is, where in the trial the names of the victims and defendants are mentioned and spread to the public, where it is clear if their names are spread, the families of the victims and perpetrators can be affected, but I will explain further. The identity of the victim and the defendant deserves to be protected. We don't look at the crime of the defendant anymore, but we consider how society will behave when the suspect's name is revealed to the public. We also consider that what the consequences will be if the victim's names is mentioned in court and made public. First, we know that the victim of a crime, whatever the crime is in a bad mental state. Their condition is not stable because of what has happened to them. No one in this world wants to experience something like them. No one wants to be a victim of crime. We know that victims of crime, especially victims of sexual crime, will experience pressure both from within themselves and from society. By providing an anonymous trial, we have given mental relief to the victims of crime because they no longer need to think about what people think of the case that happened to them. Also, in the status quo, victims of sexual crimes are often embarrassed to report and take the crime to court because people often commit victim blaming, and because usually such cases are also covered in the media, everyone knows that the victim has been a victim of sexual crime, and it increases the pressure on the victim. So it's clear that an anonymous trial will benefit the victim. Second, PM explained that anonymous trial can prevent privacy breach, where we know privacy is important. It's what keeps our lives our own and not interfered with other people's business. Why we want to protect the privacy of both victims and defendants. First, we want to protect families from both parties. As stated by the PM, the families are often target of bullying and so on as a result of crimes committed or received. By preventing privacy breaches, we also hope to prevent retaliation from related parties against the opposing party, which is definitely outside the law. What what is clear that it will be detrimental to both parties, which can even lead to other criminal acts. That anonymous trial is expected to make the trial much more fair because the trial is anonymous. It is hoped that the judge and the jury will not easily be influenced by the family of the person they are trialing. Thus, it is hoped that there will be a much fairer trial. That is all from me. Thank you.
Okay, I thank the Deputy Leader of Opposition, and to close the second half of the the first half of the debate, I call upon the Deputy Leader of Opposition. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the time. Wait, let me set my timer.
Oh, wait, am I not wrong? Are you Iron Manning?
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, just to clarify. Okay, yeah. Gue kira gue ngantuk aja gitu, but yeah, okay. So you are Iron Manning. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, I'm now gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. As the deputy leader of the opposition, I still believe that this stand has fallen and should fall. Okay, now moving on. Before I even move on to the arguments to further elaborate what my first speakers had said, I would like to rebut some of the things that they have said, or maybe rebut the rebuttal that the government side of the House has given us. Okay, so some of the first rebuttals is that, okay, you haven't told us the benefits of not changing the status quo. Well, yes, because we don't think that there is any benefit of not changing the status quo. Benefit can only come after the change. But here's the thing, we just think that it's going to be even worse if the proposal goes through. We're not here to, we as the opposing side of the House is not trying to debate that, oh, the status quo will bring more benefit. We're just saying that the status quo is better if compared to the proposal that you're trying to give to us. Okay, and then moving on, the name spread. The name spread argument apparently still exists. Okay, now they have been going on for 2 speakers now, talking about name spread, never really explaining to us how the name spreads. Okay, so they've been telling us, okay, we need to protect the anonymity, we need to protect the names of the actors of this case of law, because it might affect the family, the friends, and even the person themselves. And mind you, they specialized on sexual abuse victims, which is not what we're trying to discuss here. We're trying to discuss trials as a whole. Okay, so then how does the name spread? Because okay, there may be sexual abuse case being discussed right now, but I don't know the name of them, the name of the people involved in the case. I don't know anything about it unless I read the media, the news, the published papers, for example. And in that case, anonymity is served, even if the trial does not give you the anonymity that you might want. The publishing of the case still provides you with anonymity, to which in their side of the House never rebuts it against. Okay, if you see a sexual abuse case, let's play on their playing field. If you see a sexual abuse case on TV, do you see the names of the victims? Do you see the face of the victims? It gets blurred. You get to see their initials. You don't know the person. That's where anonymity is served. You don't need to bring it to the trials because, and then they said, okay, well, still, even if anonymity is served outside of trials, it's still going to benefit us because then it's going to result in fairer trials. And then they explain to us that, okay, it's going to prevent the judge from being affected by power of the name, because some name does come with power. For example, if it's, like if you're judging for the president, of course, some judges might be scared of, okay, maybe you don't want that to happen. But then does anonymity really do the job for that? Because even if you don't know that you're facing the president, you're judging over the president, some other people from the president's side may just come to the judge, okay, look, you need to make him win this case. It doesn't serve the purpose. Anonymity can still be broken in this sense by sending another person to do the job for you. Anonymity still doesn't do the job that they want it to do here. So the first case that they bring, name spread and protecting the anonymity of victims, it still happens under our side even without the proposal. And then fairer trial, their second case, fairer trial, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the way that they hope it to work, because you can still affect the judges in some other ways. In fact, it may make it so that the trials are even worse than the status quo. As my first speaker had already mentioned and elaborated in his argument, he said that it is anonymity is important in our justice system. Where is the importance? So in the status quo, it's true that we don't have anonymity within trials, okay? But it is like that for a reason. Why is it? Okay, well, maybe, for instance, is clarity in judging who the actors are in certain cases of law, because that's important in trying to judge who's wrong and who's right, in trying to see the case as clear as you can. And then the connections between actors, that's also important in dissecting these cases. And therefore, with anonymity, you can't do that because you simply don't know the person that you're facing with. You don't know you don't know how they act. You can't characterize them. For example, in our debating, we do characterization a lot. This is debating, not even judging. And it's even more important within those trials to characterize each actor and what they may do and what they might do in the future and what maybe they have done in the past. That's important. The track record of these actors. It's still, okay, back to what I was saying. We believe as the opposition side of the House that even with the proposal, even without the proposal, anonymity will still be served under our side. And second, with the proposal, we think that the justice system, the trials, will become even worse under their side of the House, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want a better justice system for the future, please rank us for first. Thank you very much for your time.
I thank the Deputy Leader of Opposition. Now to open the second half of the debate, I call upon the Member of Government.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to say about the POI. I just allow you to say your POI in chat. So if I don't respond your POI, so it means that I don't accept your POI. So first of all, I want to say my rebuttals against the opening opposition. First of all, here I think opening opposition doesn't understand about what we as a government has said, and the opening opposition has stated that we don't even explain how the case be spread. I think we as a government has said, and the opening government also has said, that we don't know we just want the media to responsibly spread, publish the news without exposing. And also the opening opposition also said about the initial name. And we as a government, we don't have any problem with giving the initial name. We just want the media how to keep the privacy of the victim. So the privacy of the victim, so the victim will be safe. And also the opening opposition giving nonsense explanation about judging against president. Come on, my friends, it's really different in facing a case, even in some sensitive case, in judging against the president. And also the opening opposition has stated that it's impossible for you to facing a person that you don't know the identity. First of all, you should understand that the one who should face the person, the person, whether it's victim or defendant, is only the judge, someone who is related to the law, who has the power and who has the authority in handling the case. Because even the media and the netizen know about the identity, it will not give any effect. So that's why for us as government, I want to say my argument, and we goes along with opening government. First, why we should set the victim is anonymous, because first of all, we want to protect the safety and the privacy of the safety of the victim. Because first of all, a victim that experiencing any sensitive accident or a sensitive crime, they will be sensitive. They will be broken psychologically and mental. So that's why we as a government don't want to give a more pressure, and we want to protect the victim. Because if you publish and don't set the name as anonymous, in case of the media, we as a government let the media publish the name without giving the initial, then the victim will be more pressured mentally and psychologically, which will lead into mental issue and psychologically issue. So that's why we want to protect also the good name of the family and the victim. Because if someone is affected psychologically, it will lead into another crime. So that's why we want to protect the victim and the good names of the victim. And the second one, why we as a government, we stand to set the name of the victim is anonymous, because of what? We want to protect the defendants and defendants' family, privacy and safety. Because we don't want any netizen, or maybe the victims' relatives or victims' family to do something that is not in accordance with the law to the defendant's family or to the defendants. We as a government want the law goes in accordance with what it's supposed to be. So that's why we want to protect this both victim and defendants, so the law process will go in fairness. And once again, so that's why we as a government said that we just want the media, and we will create the policy for the media, not to prohibit them in publish this case, but we will give them any policies, any standard by how they should publish a case, we will sharpening the law into how they should publish a sensitive case, like a sexually related case and children related case. So they will publish it in the responsible. And once again, we don't prohibit any media to set the initial or to publish this case, because like as not what the opening opposition has said, that when we see an initial name in the TV, we have to find the identity. Yeah, we as a government means like the identity should be given. It's not the full name that is specific. That will cause the victim or the defendant will be contacted directly from the netizen or some group of people who is not responsible to the case and affect them harmfully. So that's why we think as a government, it causes more good than harm things to anonymous, to set the victim names in anonymous, then make it open. Make it open, it means like we let the media publish, just like what the opening government has said. And we as a member of government, we also want to create a policies where the media should be responsible in publishing the case, and they can publish it wisely. So the case will not be closed, but the victim and the defendant is also safe, and the people out there can get a learn from the case. Thank you.
Okay, I thank the member of government. Now to open the closing opposition case, I call upon member of opposition. Yes, thank you, IT, for reminding. Please, guys, when you guys are speaking, do not forget to turn on the camera. Thank you.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. Okay.
Oh,
Yes,
great.
yes, you are audible.
Thank you. I will have the chat room open, so I prefer my POIs through chats. Yeah, I think my notes are ready. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bethany Jaffa. Before we begin, I would like to address our position as closing opposition. My position as member of opposition, and that we oppose, we disagree to the motion in which this House prefers trials where victims and defendants are anonymous. But before going into my speech, I'm going to briefly respond to some of the statements given by the government side. First, they stated that by protecting the identity of victims and defendants, we're also protecting the identity of their family, and so their family can be protected from bullying. And people in general don't need to know who they are, what their identities are. They only need to know the case and focus on the storyline, because victims will then have psychological problems. I'd like to rebut to this by saying that even if their identities are being kept secret throughout the trial, right? Being kept secret throughout the trial, one day, sometime in the future, there is a possibility in some way that people will find out who they are and what exactly happened to them. Even if it happens after the trial is finished, everything is over and done with, but everyone has different levels of psychological strengths, right? They can still experience psychological problems anyway, even if they experience bullying after the trials are done and all the matters are over and done with. Also, one little possibility is, even if the privacy is being kept from public during the trial, there might still be a member of the family or a member from their inner circle who knows what happened and spread it around for money, for profit. So moving on into my speech here, I would like to take the opportunity in my speech to emphasize on the privacy of the victims and defendants. Of course, one of the most obvious outcome by keeping the victims and defendants anonymous is that their privacy is kept safer. However, we from the closing opposition side would like to point out several arguments in which the privacy of the victims and defendants are not as threatened as it might seem. First, they have lawyers who speak on their behalf, lawyers who know how trials work and give advices to help victims and defendants win their case, lawyers who help keep their privacy as safe as possible, even though not to the extent of making them anonymous, but they're still kept safe. Second, as threatened as they might be, they can always look for help. If they receive notes about death threats or other kinds of threats, they can always look for an agent to help them, reach out to the police or agents to help them. For these reasons, we are proud to oppose.
Thank you. Now I call upon the government whip.
Okay. Let me set the timer first. Okay. I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. First thing first, before I move to my argument rebuttals, what the OO said, that the anonymity is served, but then he said that it might be revealed when it comes to someone who have power and it will become unfair in the trials. But that's exactly our DPM says in his statement. Means anonymity is no one can know, even interpret that. So it will make a fair judgment trials, unless the other side keep asking what the urgency us to anonymously the identity, but they are not telling us why we should publish it itself. Now move on to my argument. Public interest in high crime case and the media coverage in status quo is increased due to easy access for information from social media, television, and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, legal trials is not like the election, ladies and gentlemen, that the public have a voice there. Otherwise, due to publication, public tend to have a right to judge the defendants of crime. That's sometimes so humiliating. Although his crime record, he's still a human, right? And public interest not stop to the point that they cornering the defendant, but also spread out the victim's information as well. Why is not okay? Let's take a look as an example. Imagine that the case of rape, where woman being raped by an unknown man in somewhere and sometime. The case blows up to media because they see it as a good news highlight for them. But look from the victim side. She at the humiliation state. Her mental health must be ruined by that accident, and so that they want to keep that accident as a secret for her and her family. Extend, they just want her justice, not publication, because she will think that as a shameful and invitation accident that she never wanted. Due to the privacy that Prime Minister say in the first place, the victims and family just want justice. In their sensitive cases, the publicity can either destroy defendants' change for a trial. Why so? Going back to my example, to the rape case in status quo, while this case rise on the social media, many people, especially men, in contrast, saying that if there's no sugar, then there's no end. If there's no smoke, otherwise there's a fire. Means that they're on the defendant's side and says that if the woman not like Sham Sumi say that the woman seducing him, like the clothes, how she dressed up, but that's not the problem that to begin with, right? But the justice for the victim that get unmarried in this incident. As a government side, we prefer trial with anonymous identity for victims and defendants due to the privacy that benefits for both of the victims and defendants from what reason to that of the state and for fair judgment we proudly propose.
I thank the government whip. Now to close the entire debate, I call upon the opposition whip.
Okay, am I audible? Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Let me be Christine as the second speaker of the closing opposition to strengthen our argument that was previously present by the first speaker. We as the opposition team do not agree that trials where victim and defendants are anonymous. We as the opposition team agree that the trial in which the victim and the accused must be mentioned. If the trial in which the victim and defendant are not named, this is a protection, but this protection even operates the formal requirement in the form of an obligation to have submit a report directly to the reporter or his superior. A complaint of offense, and because of the he became involved with the police. It is true, as the first speaker of closing opposition said, that there is no urgent need for a court where the victim and defendant are not named because the defendant and victim have lawyers defending them. So that the names of the accused and victims must be known so that the case process runs transparently. Why hide their data? Because both parties, in this case, the victim and the defendant, have legal protection. So there is no need to hide their names. The law also states that the provision of service for the defendant or victim, among others, provides security guarantees for the defendant or victim. Transparency is very much needed in the law. For example, someone who commits corruption, if the name of the corruptor is hidden, then there is no transparency between the community and legal affairs. An organization that deals with the public or the community requires information disclosure that can be accessed by the public, or better known as transparency. Why is transparency important? Because transparency is a form of public supervision of the organization concerned, in this case, the government. If anonymity is not stated in the trial, then what is the use of protecting the defendant and the victim? What is the use of the defense judge for the defendant and the victim? And if it is discussed in the time of sexual case, If the name of the defendant is not conveyed or hidden, it will harm the victim. The victim will feel that this case is covered while the victim himself feels belittled from the environment. But why does the defendant feel like he was safe by hiding the name of the defendant? This will make the victim is getting sicker, and the consequences are even worse, as the victim will think about ending his life. Especially nowadays, technology is developing and everything can be seen on social media. This makes the case spread quickly, both from the victim and the defendant will also be known to the public. For example, such as the defendant whose name is not known. This will make the defendant's crime hidden. It should be notified so that the crime does not become more widespread, because the audience can see this and make learning. This makes us, the opposition team, disagree that trial where victims and defendants are anonymous. Thank you.
Okay, by that, the debate has been concluded. Thank you very much for all the debaters. Now you guys can cross hand, make this debate as civil as possible. But after that, please do get out of this breakout room. And for the ITN recording, please stop the recording because the judges will going to deliberate. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you, judges.
Thank you, judges.